Hello everybody out there in the bookverse, it's Stephanie, and for today's video, I'm doing kind of a chiller video. I'm sitting on the floor in front of my bookshelves, and I haven't done a book tag in so long, so I decided to just go on, find one, do a book recommendations tag, and I found this one called the book recommendations tag, I guess, and it was done by Steph. I don't know if she's really a booktuber or if she's kind of like does books and lifestyle, but she came up with this book recommendations tag, and I decided I would go ahead and do it as well because it looked like fun and it was like fairly simple to do. Okay, so there are 15 prompts, and I'll give a book for each prompt or a series. I think some of these I chose like the entire series for it because it just didn't make sense to choose one book, but let's go ahead and jump in. I'll list the prompts down below as well if you want to do this yourself. Feel free. I'm not going to tag anyone in particular, but feel free to do it if you so choose. It is kind of fun. So first prompt is a book you tell people is your favorite. And for this one, it was kind of difficult for me to choose because I do have quite a few that if they'll ask depending on like the genre or something, but I decided to go with the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I just love this series so much. I know it's not completed yet, so it's kind of difficult to say whether it'll be my favorite once the final book in like the first 5-book arc is out, but I absolutely adore this series so much. The characters are great, the magic is great, the world's great. I love the story, the plot, the like Sanderlanche at the end of all the books. It's so much fun, and I just love reading them. It's just like my happy place to be in the Cosmere. So Stormlight Archive would probably be the one that I would tell people is my favorite book. The next, gosh, I need to stop kicking the tripod. This is why I don't sit for my videos. The next prompt is a book that is your guilty pleasure. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really feel like I have a guilty pleasure book. I feel like especially now, the book community is very okay with whatever types of books you like to read, and you're going to find your people who also like the types of books you like to read. So I feel like this is going to be a weird choice, but I'm going with The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This isn't necessarily a guilty pleasure, but this is a book that I can reread and just adore it and keep loving it. But if you look at my taste, this like doesn't necessarily fit into it under 100%. I don't know. I don't even know if this really fits it. I guess I don't necessarily have a guilty pleasure book, but this one is probably my one that I don't necessarily always tell people that I love to reread, but I do really enjoy this book. I like the first and the second book a lot, and then the third one not so much. But yeah, I still read this series and absolutely love it. So yeah, that doesn't really count, but we're going with it. Okay, the next prompt is a book everyone loved, but you didn't. And for this, I'm going with the entire ACOTAR series. Everyone seems to adore this series. This is like universally beloved. And I feel like when I first read it, I tried to convince myself that I liked it, especially like the first one. I was like, I like it. It was interesting. And I actually, weirdly enough, think the first one's probably my favorite in the series, but I just didn't love it. I didn't get into the romance. I didn't really like most of the characters. I felt like it was just so extra and stuff so often, and it just bugged me a lot. There were so many plot holes. The like plots of the books were like kind of very similarly structured. I don't know. I did not love this series. I didn't like the writing. I didn't like it. And everyone loves it. Next prompt, I actually don't have one for this one. It says a book that you read the fastest, and I have read a lot of books in one day or one sitting, especially since I have started doing the 24 or 48 hour TBR mini star hop readathons because I do need to read them quickly, and sometimes I read really long books. I mean, I read Speaking Bones, which is over 1,000 pages in less than 24 hours, so I guess I could put that one on here, but I also have a lot of books that I read very quickly, particularly during those readathons, so I don't really have one for that. Question number 5 is a book that deserves more hype. And for this, I'm going with City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. I really love his Divine Cities trilogy. I feel like I don't hear people talking about it that much. I know it was picked for a book club pick, which is actually what got me into the series to begin with. And since then, I just really haven't heard anybody talk about it besides me. But I love it. I think the series is so good. I love the writing, the characters, the mystery, the twists. It's so much fun for me, and I absolutely love it. Particularly this first book. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times in series, I just fall in love with the first book and it sticks. But I just love this series so much, and I think it deserves more hype and more attention than it gets. The next prompt is a book that is becoming a movie/TV show. And this one I went with Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I think actually it has come out now, the TV show for Kindred. It's on Hulu, and I am planning on watching it soon. I did read the book and really enjoyed myself. I think this book is very thought-provoking, and it definitely makes you think and question, and it's so gray in so many areas. Like, it's so hard to actually come up with feelings about these characters and what's happening. One in particular, if you've read it, it's like difficult to read because of how horrible some of the things that are happening are, but also you can't put it down because it's almost like a car crash where you just can't look away. Like, you have to know what happens in this book and you just can't stop reading. It's amazing. So well written. Highly recommend it, but I'm definitely interested to see what they do with the TV show. Kind of, actually, I don't know if I want to watch the TV show after reading the book. The next one I have is a book that you have reread the most. And this one is very simple for me. The book I've reread the most is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This one I have read so many times. It's not even a competition. I think when I was a child, we went through 2 different copies of this book because I read it so much it was falling apart. I haven't read it as much since I've been an adult, but yes, this one definitely is 100% the book that I've reread the most in my life. Number 8, a book from a genre you don't typically read. So for this one, I'm going with The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is a historical fiction book, and I do not read that much historical fiction. I don't tend to like it that much, but I love this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I absolutely love it. It just had me gripped. I was so invested, so engaged in this book. I could not put this book down. It's amazing. I found it at this cute used bookstore in Washington, D.C. when I was just walking around. It was right behind the Capitol into kind of the more residential areas, and I just have such a special place for this book. I loved it, and I need to reread it because it was so good. Next one we have is a book that deserves all the hype it gets. And for this one, I am choosing The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This series is amazing, but this book in particular is so powerful and impactful, and it just has you so intrigued as to what's happening. The world is really interesting, and seeing the dynamics between the magic users, non-magic users, those types. I guess it's not necessarily magic, kind of, but like the prejudices and the social commentary that goes on here, but also the way it's written and how she turns that into a plot device. I absolutely love it. This is such a good book, good series. The first and the third ones are my favorite. Second one's a little bit less easy to get through, but I still really enjoyed it a lot. I absolutely love this series so much, and it deserves all the hype it gets. And if any of the book boxes out there want to make this into a special edition, I will give you all my money because I need a special edition of this series because I'm not a huge fan of the covers, and I just think that they deserve like beautiful editions. So we should make that happen. Next on the list is a book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. And for sure, I'm going with Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson for this. I do tend to get asked for fantasy recommendations because that is primarily the genre that I read in. And I feel like Mistborn is a really good place for a lot of people to start into fantasy. This is adult high fantasy, and it does have a fairly like hard magic system with rules to it. And I just think it is quite easy to read. It's very engaging, has a great story, great characters, has the found family trope, which I know is very beloved by so many people. It has a heist. It's really intriguing and interesting and easy to get into, and it's not as politics heavy, and you don't have to remember as many places and names as in a lot of other fantasy books. And so I think that this is a really good place for people to start. Plus, it's amazing, and I absolutely love it. So it has both of those things going for it. So I think it's a really good book to recommend when people are asking for adult fantasy recommendations. 11 is a book that has your favorite characters. So I'm not doubling up on other series, and so that does kind of change it a little bit. But for this one, I'm going with the characters of the Legends of the First Empire series by Michael J. Sullivan. I think he does an amazing found family in this series. I think so many of the characters are so unique. They're just like own unique struggles and loves and passions, and I just think he does so well in this book of developing these characters but not always giving us exactly what we want from everybody, and making it more emotional and like heartbreaking, but so it's like addicting. I felt like I loved these characters. I loved being with them, and I love this series so much. I would highly recommend it. The 12th question is a book you wish you could live in, and I'm going to be honest, the majority of the books that I read, I would never want to live in those worlds. Are you kidding me? They are like brutal and miserable, and I like my comforts. I like my Wi-Fi and my heaters and my television and stuff. But the one that I decided to go with ultimately was Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. I think Nevermore sounds fun and cute. It has very whimsical magic, and it just I don't know, it just seems like a warm place to live, a fun place to live. I think I would really enjoy it. It has a lot of magic going on everywhere, but it doesn't seem as like deadly or dangerous, and I don't have to, eat hard cheese and bread and sleep on the ground and stuff. I just think that this seems like a lot more comfortable and pleasant a place to live. Next one was a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving, and I honestly don't have one for this either. I don't tend to read books that I think I'm gonna hate. It doesn't make sense for me to do that necessarily. So I don't tend to. I guess the closest I would come is in high school. I had to read The Count of Monte Cristo for a class, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It is one of my favorite classics of all time, probably my favorite classic of all time, one of my favorite books of all time, and we were given the abridged version to read for school, and then I ended up loving it, and so I got the unabridged version and read that again right after I finished the abridged version. So I'm gonna go with that one because I didn't go into it expecting to hate it, but I did not go into it because I wanted to. I was told to, and so I think that one will kind of work. So Count of Monte Cristo. Love that book. So good. Number 14 is a book that made you cry. And I mean, I could have picked a lot of books by this author, but I decided to go with Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This book was emotionally just wrecking. It was amazing, and I love these characters so much. I just can't believe that this was the ending to this story, this series. It was just beautiful and so good, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I would cut off like the end because I hated it, but like up to like there, this is so good. Robin Hobb is a master at making characters that are flawed but you love, and you're like so frustrated with them but you care about them, and then other ones that you love but our main character is being stupid, and it's just, she's a master at character work. I absolutely love her books, and this one in particular, it was so good. But yes, definitely cried here. And finally, last prompt is a book you wish you could read for the first time again. And this one I have got to say, The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. This book is phenomenal. This is probably one of the best books I have ever read in my life. It's so well written. It's just so well executed. The plot, the twists, the characters in here. Holy cow, we have some of the best characters in this book. Gia, I think, is one of my favorite characters of all time. I think she's so complex, and she's just a very definition morally gray character, and she's just amazing. I love her. I love so many characters in here, and I think the way that we look at it from the different perspectives as well, we see it from the side of the people who are invading, and we see it from the side of the people who are being invaded, and then we also see a little bit of perspective of people who had been invaded previously by the people who are now being invaded. Like, it's just very well done. It's amazing. He's so smart. Like, you can just tell that he is a genius. He has to be, because this book is just so well done, and the twists in it, oh, it's so good. So yeah, if I could read a book again for the first time, it would probably be this one. Okay, that is the end of this tag. I haven't done one of these in a while, but I think it's kind of fun to just have someone else be giving you prompts, and I just find books to fill it. I couldn't find books for all of them, but overall I thought that was a lot of fun. If you want to join in, I'd be really interested to see what books you pick for the different prompts. And as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon so you'll be notified when I post new content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.